with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You could be around for
You could be with anyone. I could be with anyone. You're here with me. You're here with me.
Hey, what's going on, people? Welcome to another live on My Take on Reality or My Take on Reality Live. Uh, we will be condensing the live streams to just the My Take on Reality Live within the next couple weeks, just so everybody's kind of on the same page, especially as we start to roll out on new material that I plan on taking the channel into a different direction. I won't even say different direction, but it will encompass more than just talking about sister wives and the Brown family. Rosemont Harris, Peach, what's going on? How you guys doing? Hopefully you're having an awesome evening. I was trying to get on earlier, but the Kremlins and some other things were kind of keeping me down, but we are not here to complain, and we will push through it. Hold on one second. Okay. Yeah, as you could tell by the Brittany, not Brittany, what's going on? Darlene Hall and Jen in the house. What's happening? What's happening? As you can tell from the this will be a voiceover, just because hopefully I sound better, but I still kind of look like shit. So thought I'd spare you guys the image. But I was looking at, or at least thinking about, what I was going to talk about tonight. As I mentioned, I wanted to try to roll some different material out so that we can have different discussions, not just about how horrible and terrible and evil and maniacal Cody and Robin are, but just talk about other things as well. So some of the things that I wanted to talk about, in addition to, I guess, interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships, I also wanted to kind of cover professional relationships, things of that nature. And I also been kind of playing around with the idea, even way back when I was talking to Miss Betty and some other members about potentially doing some news coverage things here and there, like between courts and like crime stuff. So it'll be a little more diverse on the channel than just talking about these folks, the Brown folks. All right. So all right, Lizzie Beats on vacation. Have a fantastic time. Enjoy yourself. Yeah, I've been a little slow in getting up into the room. But just for the night, like I had been kind of contemplating some of the things that I wanted to talk about. And as I thought about it, there's a few things that, as we're kind of coming out of the haze of dealing with the sister wife season, there's some things I wanted to talk about. Some things I thought needed to be addressed. Because when we talk about, how the show started to where it went to kind of where it ended up, these are three very distinct places. These are completely different places, right? Because when Sister Wives first started, there was a concerted effort to make sure that Sister Wives didn't start as just another messy reality TV show where you just had people on the show acting a fool. That's not what their goal was. That's not what the cast was trying to do. What they were trying to do was come onto the show with a mission to try to normalize polygamy. They wanted to explain how polygamy works. They wanted to present polygamy as this functional, highly functional, in some cases, preferential types of relationships. So if you think monogamy is cool, why don't you try to add more partners? Imagine all the stuff that you could do. You don't have to worry about paying for daycare. You have additional income in the house. So if you have like 4 or 5 professionals who are in the same house under the same roof and they're all working towards the same goal, imagine how much you can achieve. When you are lacking in some areas or you're wanting in some places, whether it's parenting, finances, or just patience, whatever the case may be, you would have somebody who is there to support you and in some cases supplement your contributions towards the family. That's how the show was presented to us. That's how polygamy was presented to us. You know, the Brown family took a lot of time trying to present themselves as the functional, loving example of how plural marriage works and functions. We had the bad examples of the Warren Jeffs and the FLDS and all the terrible people in the Kingston group and all these horrible people. And what the Brown family tried to present themselves as with in conjunction with TLC was that's not what was really going on. You're basically getting the bad scoop. You're getting the bad tea. The word on the curb is saying that polygamy is actually, if done like uh, the Brown family try to present themselves, is done like every other relationship. There's no, I remember them saying specifically, there's no difference between us and everybody else. We're just like everybody else as far as our relationships are concerned. We dress like everybody else. We talk like everybody else. We're just, we could be your neighbors, is the whole thing that they try to present to us. And they position themselves as the proof that critics and the public had misunderstood the lifestyle of polygamy the entire time. When we saw these people on the channel, whatever, Action News or 5 o'clock news, or back then that's those were the news channels. It wasn't all like punditry where people just get up and pop shit. But you had people who act like actual news reporters, Dan Rather, and and real like journalists coming out saying this is what's going on in Utah, and they're manhunt has ensued for this Warren Jeffs who's trying to marry teenage girls, and Kingston groups got teenage girls marrying their cousins and crap like that. They came out and tried to say to the entire groups of critics and the public who believed that that's what polygamy was. They said specifically, if you watch our show, you'll see that we're nothing like that. And the here is where they started, but where they ended up is now that the family has fallen apart and a lot of the cracks and things that were negative about being in polygamy are being revealed. Suddenly, the cast members are all coming out claiming the show is edited and is telling the wrong story. You can't believe nothing you saw with your eyes because of the way they edited the show. And to that point, I would simply retort that if your goal was to try to make a group look better, right? I'm going to make my group look better. I'm a part of several groups, I'm sure. I'm going to make the 6'6" group, male group look good, y'all. We can pick, we can get the high jars off the top shelf. We don't need any ladders. It's so amazing to be over 6'6". It's so incredible, right? Come to find out, I can't buy clothes and shoes and shit. Nothing fits. Right? Not to mention when there's a problem, everybody points to you. That's the guy who started. Right? And the way they did it was, it's not that their relationships were faulty. It's not that you had people coming to the family looking out for themselves, potentially for the wrong reasons, right? As illustrated by how many of us think that Robin came into the family. She came in for the wrong reasons. She came in because she thought there was going to be a opportunity for her to come into the family. That's the way it was presented on the show. And it says, Nene, she came in for the right reason. Cody, he was a great father and a great husband. And you have the women who were victimized by those circumstances coming out and saying, no, no, no. The show was edited and is wrong. They presented the wrong story. And my question and my retort to that would simply be, if I wanted to make my group look good, there's no way I would be involved in a show that made my group look bad for 20 seasons. Season after season, you're making my group look terrible. You're proving the exact point I came on in to disprove. You're proving it every week. For 45 minutes, you sit there and prove every week why I shouldn't trust the group that I'm a part of. And that's what they did. That was one of the things they did. Now, you could argue, I think you could make a plausible argument that maybe the first 3-4 seasons you could blame on growing pains. You could say, well, it wasn't that bad, and the real bad edits didn't start till later. But there were a lot of things that we could look at, and the other part of it, and if we drill down into it, like I said, the original goal of the show was to cast the Brown family as polygamy ambassadors, right? They were going to be the gateway to show the rest of us heathens how this particular system operates. And they openly said that they wanted to change the public perception of how polygamy is going to be carried out. The narrative, plural marriage equals loving. It's love multiplied. Another big, strong thing that they tried to put, because they understood, and this is something that we'll get into in a minute. They understood what the downsides of polygamy were. So when we sit here, whether it's on my show, other people's show, wherever, and we sit here and say that these women had no idea what polygamy was about and the negative aspects of polygamy because this is how they were raised. Let's keep in mind that they made a distinct effort to argue against plural marriage being something that's taking advantage of women. They made a distinct effort to argue against women being forced to do it. They've said on several different occasions throughout the seasons and the series that this is something that they chose to do. Even in the last season, Janelle said that she went out and pursued Cody. Cody didn't pursue her. She said she pursued Cody. So this is something that she chose. This isn't her being manipulated and tricked into this evil ass state of affairs or this type of relationship. This is something that she chose. They talk about this being a strong family unit, that we're not broken down, that Cody is treating us all the same, that he's making sure he's spending as much time with all the kids as he can because he doesn't have 4 different households with 4 different families. He has one big family. All his kids and the wives, they're all mothers and they're all brothers and sisters. All the kids are brothers and sisters with each other. This is what we were told. And we were told these things. We were told these things because they all, let me say that one more again, they all understood what the downsides of polygamy were. That's how they were able to argue against this not being a representation of the downsides of polygamy. They also talked about how much the kids benefit from this type of lifestyle. If they don't get along with one mom, they got another mom that they can rely on and talk to and confide in and so on and so forth. There's always a possibility or an opportunity for them to get more love and have more opportunity for love because the whole notion of, and this is kind of the MLM con man trick, You take a little bit of truth and you just mix it with a bunch of bullshit. And that's actually what makes the medicine go down easier. Does it take a village to raise a child? Absolutely. If a child has more people who are concerned with them, more people involved with them, more people dealing with them, the child is better off 100%. There's nothing wrong with a child having, children don't have a limit on love and support. So if you have a situation where you could have several adults supporting a child, the child benefits. Absolutely. And they understood that. That's why they made that such a big deal. Now, the problem is the execution. The problem is the execution. So, Cody, it's great that you got parents who are all involved with the kids. But if you have one mom who's monopolizing the dad's time and the other mothers are always concerned about what's going on, where the dad is at, and they're not necessarily focusing on their kids, then the kids don't benefit from that. And so I think that that's one of the things, like, we're going to keep it all the way a buck. That's one of the things that we kind of see in this show. And here's another thing with this as well. This is another point that I bring up when they get to complaining about how people all up in their business. The family wanted the cameras to show the lifestyle. They not only wanted to be on television, they not only wanted to be famous, but they wanted to be famous and on television because they were trying to demonstrate this particular lifestyle and encourage other people to be involved with this type of lifestyle because they were endorsing it. They were endorsing it. And I'm going to come back to some of this stuff because I think it's some points that I really want to make and really want to stress with regard to how this affects us moving forward. The next thing I think we'll talk about a little bit is what I kind of referred to as the shiny polygamy era. Early, because early on in the seasons, they kind of portrayed a fairly positive narrative, where they come out and get on Oprah or the morning shows or wherever, smiling from ear to ear. Everybody's trying to act all wholesome. Oh, devil begun, blah blah blah. Oh, fiddly sticks, trying to come out with that whole Little House on the Prairie bullshit personality stuff, where they had like the everything was like the big family energy. Oh, we're gonna have a big huge party and everybody's gonna be out there dancing. You see Cody out there kicking his leg and shit in the middle of the dance floor, because it's the big family energy. When they show up to places, they want to take places over and brag to people about how many wives he have and how big his family is and how he got 18 kids and he got 4 wives and that big family energy, right? They wanted to express how they had this great sense of cooperative parenting, which was actually kind of dismantled early on when Christine had revealed that Robin wouldn't let her watch her kids. But before that, they spent a great deal of time trying to express that all the women were mothers to all the kids. I remember when there was one particular time during the first season where Mary was trying to express that how wonderful it is to be able to have these kids involved and all the parents, and she never has to pay for a babysitter because she has parents who can watch the kids. And then Cody jumps in and says about Robin, she's not a babysitter. She's a mother in this family. She's a mother. She's a whole mother in this family. And Robin just got that, right? But she's a mother in the family because they had this big family energy. And there was the whole cooperative parenting thing. And we're all a team and we're all working together. And it's not just I'm in charge of my biological children, but I'm also involved with dealing with and supporting children that aren't mine biologically, but because we're in a family. These are some of the things that they try to push early on. Talking about how the sister wives supported each other. This is where Robin actually, in a very devious way, tried to take advantage of the sister wives supporting each other. She tried to put an anchor into that when she tried to roll out the business that she really didn't want to do, but she wanted the other women to work on. And I'm talking about Sister Wives Closet. Because when the other women wanted to go off and do something different, then it wasn't just the fact that they didn't want to participate in Robin's stuff. It was the fact that she tried to spin it so it looks like the other women weren't supporting her, which would have been contradictory to what they had pushed to us the whole time, that they were cooperating parents, that they are all participating and cooperating with each other. And most importantly, they were supporting each other. They had each other's backs. And that was like the first real shot that Robin took at the OG3. It didn't land well. It didn't stick. But that was definitely a shot. There was the ridiculous notion, and this is one of my personal favorites, that human nature don't count and is not real in polygamy. Because the family was always claiming that jealousy was manageable, that jealousy was non-existent, that if you were jealous, then it was a personal fault that you had. It was a personal trait failure that the women had, that they would be jealous of each other. It was something that they needed to work on for themselves. Not that Cody needed to make them more secure, not that Cody needed to make them more comfortable, not that Cody needed to reinforce the strength of his relationship with these women individually. No. If they felt jealousy, it was unnatural, it was unhealthy, and it was something that these women need to work on. And the fact that they felt jealousy, it was merely a tool designed to make them improve as human beings. There was suffering that was going to make them better as human beings and pave the way for them to be able to go into the afterlife. Ridiculous. And there was also the idea that plural marriage, even with the suffering components, because there's going to be parts where they're going to struggle. Even in the first episode where the second episode where Cody was like, right after he said, come on, meet my family. This is my family, Janelle, Mary, we got kids, and this is Christine, and all that. The second episode, he sat there in the parking lot getting ready to meet up with Robin, smiling and grinning, talking about, oh, it's going to be hard. They just going to have to get over it. Because they understood that jealousy was a thing, but it was played down for the show. And the idea was that suffering, when they get through it, is only going to make the relationship stronger. And we didn't see that on the show. Or as they say, all these things are supposed to be true, but even in early seasons, there were cracks showing. Where we see, and I would even push to you guys or ask you guys, were we seeing a real thing or a polished sales pitch? Do we think that they changed over the years, or do we think that they were just merely, hawking a story to us because it was something that they could sell and something that they could get onto on the screen? Because this is how they were cashing checks. Like, forget the truth. I need to get to these Benjamins. And even talking about like the cracks, the shift, when the cracks became the story, when the narrative began changing, we had things like the move to Las Vegas. All of a sudden they went from, oh, we a little house on the prairie. We got the outhouse, barely got a roof over our head. We are living like real humble. And then they're going to move to a place like as gregarious as Las Vegas, the city that never sleeps, next to New York, lights burning the whole time, Tinseltown, right? And then they had the whole thing of like the financial stresses, the Robin dynamic, Robin coming into the family and, everything being switched and turned into how she's suffering and how she's, this transition is affecting her and is affecting her more deeply and driving into her more negatively than any of the other women. The women who were losing their husband. Robin was being affected because she was taking the husband away. So she was suffering more than the OG3 because even though they were losing their husband, Robin had the guilt of being the one who's responsible for taking the kids away or taking the husband away. Of course, there was the emotional distance between Cody and the other wives, because even early on, if you watch the show, you could see that there was a stronger connection between Cody and Robin than with any of the other women. There's just a better chemistry. And here's the thing, like, especially, and I want to be very respectful at this point, because unironically, when it comes to the visual medium of television, movies, uh, even plays, there are instances where you could have better on-screen chemistry with an individual than you could even with your wife or your husband. That is a possibility. You just look better together. You look more natural together. That's a possibility. There have been instances. Ryan Gosling and I forget the young lady's name who played in The Notebook. They had their on-screen chemistry was amazing. They looked like they were in love with each other. You know, like they really had a relationship going. Like, oh, they definitely knocking it off. When they yell cut, they going back to the trail and tearing that whole place up, right? But then you find out later that they couldn't stand each other. They couldn't stand each other, but it was just something about them, the way that they looked on screen. It just had a magical moment. So there is a thing where you could say that somebody has on-camera screen or on-camera chemistry. However, that on-camera chemistry, I think, is just in how they interact with each other, but it doesn't cover how you treat not only the person that you have chemistry with, but the other women that you're supposed to be in a relationship with. And I think that when Cody tries to say, fall back on what I just said about on-camera chemistry, and it wasn't a real thing that he had with Robin that separated her from the OG3, that's what I would retort with. That the on-camera chemistry does not cover you going over to Robin's house and spending most of your time at Robin's house. That's not on-camera chemistry. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. Then we have and I would even say this. There is a point too where the kids started breaking away and telling a little more of their story and some of the things that they were going through. And I think that also kind of lended itself to pretty much damaging the story. Hold on one second. Let me see something real quick. All right. But yeah, so we had that, but then I would even say, like, by the as the show kind of wore on, even by like the third or fourth season, the show had gradually stopped looking like polygamy advocacy and started looking like polygamy reality. Right? A lot of the cracks started showing. They did have a few episodes even later on where they were supposed to be trying to petition Utah or petition the government to legalize polygamy or decriminalize polygamy. So we did have that part where they were trying to act as though they were advocating for polygamy, doing the UNLV debates, things of that nature. So they were pretty much all in as far as how it was being perceived. But even while they were trying to promote polygamy by being on television, I think by being on television, there were a few key turning points which led to the collapse of the family. A huge turning point which led to the collapse of the family was like the utter destruction of the family, because I think it was kind of headed that way anyway. But the point where you could say that the family was pretty much done, data, over and done with was when Christine left. Then when Janelle separated from the family. Then with Janelle and Christine gone, Mary was all but kicked out of the family. You know, she was drummed out of the family. Then you had a point where Cody started practicing monogamy more openly, more direct, and being more forthright about the fact that he was doing it. I think he was always lightweight practicing monogamy. He just, was basically cheating on his wife, his girlfriend, Robin, with these other women. But he was, by the time Christine, Mary, and Janelle left, or even before, when he sat there and said, y'all women is in my way for me achieving my goals, my life goals. That was him basically staking the claim that he wanted to be a monogamist. Right? So I think that was something that they were heading for the whole time, but it's contradictory to the fact that how are you going to say, I had these women for 30 years, 13 kids between the three of them, and then I'm just going to change my mind, go polygamy. I've been professing how awesome polygamy is, and now I'm just basically going to ruin their lives with my decision. So, I mean, that's kind of the weird part. And as we started to look at how the family broke up, you have the idea of the new narrative, where they sat there and said that editing told the story wrong. Right? Now, several cast members suggest that production manipulated things, that scenes were edited to create villains, that the public doesn't know the real truth. And these things annoy the shit out of me because, again, if I was on a show and I was trying to promote a thing and the show was saying that the thing that I'm promoting is the opposite of how I'm trying to present it, then I don't participate in that show anymore. If that's what I'm really there for, right? If I'm just there for money, I guess it doesn't matter. But if I'm really trying to push understanding and a deeper level of bringing issues to people's attention, then I want those issues to be presented clearly. And again, we'll get into some of this in a little bit. But when push comes down to shove, I respect the fact that a good edit can alter how people perceive certain things. You could take an argument that that spans a couple months and put it all into one day, or perceive it as like within a couple days from each other. Like somebody has this little slick comment, and then you take another slick comment that they have, and you make it look like this is something they're constantly talking about. Then all of a sudden they become hyper aggressive, right? Or you cut down certain sentences, or you remove the context from certain events. You can make somebody look bad. 100%. 100% you could do that. The problem I have is that sometimes you get caught doing something or saying something on camera. And I talk about the power of the microphone all the time. You get caught doing something or saying something, and the context don't clean that shit up. It don't make it better. It doesn't make it better. Like when Cody, like I said, I mean, the prime example, which is actually an old, stale example of, Isabel going for surgery and Cody standing there saying, I can't be away from my family that long. There's nothing you can say to me about like context of editing in that statement. That I don't need to know anything else. I heard what you said. I heard what you said. Like, so, they did. They wanted in the right context. Well, take time and explain that shit to me. Explain to me how that works better. How you're going to come off better. If anything, that's one of those moments where you actually might want to shut up about it, because no matter what you say or how you try to explain it, you only have room to make yourself look worse. in that situation, because you'll try to by trying to explain it, you're trying to justify it, which tells me you didn't learn anything from the experience. You know, and if we're gonna look at it, how much did the editing changes? This is 10 plus years of footage, right? But actually closer to 15 years of footage. We had almost 20 years of this show being on. Conflicts happen repeatedly, and the audience watch decisions unfold in real time. So maybe we aren't privy to every sentence of a conversation, but we got the gist of what the stuff was about. So I think it's disingenuous to sit there and say that because the show is edited, that somehow we're missing vital or critical or crucial information, and we can't come up with opinions or views of how the show was being carried out. I think that's kind of and I also noticed that when they make the statements of editing, or you don't know everything that's going on, or blah blah blah, there's audience members or fan base make shit up, make stories up. I noticed. You ever notice? And I mean this. If you did notice it, put it in the chat. You ever notice they never went back and corrected what the issue was? Like, for instance, they never said, "Oh, you got that wrong. Let me explain to you what actually happened and why you're wrong." That's what I would expect. If I got something wrong, I would expect, if somebody was saying a story about me and they got it wrong, I would expect them to come back and say, "This is why it's wrong. This is why what you said doesn't make any sense." Right? Because you think it said ABC, but in reality, what really happened was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you need that additional context. You need that additional information. And I'm going to explain to you why you're wrong. They've never done that with anything that they've talked about. They just said that we got it wrong because of editing. And we don't see them 100% of the time. Doesn't tell us anything. And I think there's also a thing too where, they refuse to take, and this is why it's actually harder to watch the show for me, because everybody is refusing to take accountability for decisions they made, actions they took, and the harm they caused. And instead, they're trying to blame production, or they're trying to blame YouTubers or TikTokers or Twitterers or Xers or whatever for why the family has a bad reputation, or why certain cast members are viewed negatively. And I got to ask the question, do you guys think editing is responsible for the audience's perception? I disagree with that, because the one thing that I say, and I've always said about when you speak in front of groups, like I'm one of those psycho people, they say that people fear death, or fear public speaking more than they fear death. I'm one of those people. I absolutely love public speaking. I love it. I love it. They got a microphone. I'm trying to figure out how to get up on that. Oh, look at that microphone setup. They must want somebody to talk on that thing. Right? And the one thing I've learned, and I've been doing public speaking. Story time. I've been doing public speaking since I was in grade school. Like my first time public speaking was in 5th grade. And I had a really good experience. I won't get into the story too deep, but I had a really good experience with it. And I've been doing public speaking since then. Like I spoke at my graduation. I spoke at my high school and college graduations. I've spoke in classes. I've spoken in events. I was a Toastmaster. Like I've competed as a Toastmaster. I'm one of those people. I enjoy public speaking. And the one thing that I can say about public speaking is that when you stand on a stage in front of people, I don't give a shit how smart you think those people are or how dumb you think those people are. People have an inherent way of being able to sift through bullshit. Like they could tell whether you're being genuine or whether there's just something not quite right with you when you get up and say stuff. And so I take personal offense, just in my experience, when somebody says that editing is completely responsible for how the audience perceives particular people on the show. It's not the fact that it was edited. It's just something about what you said, something about your story, something about the way you carried yourself that makes people look at you and say, yeah, that's just not, she ain't it. This just doesn't make sense to me. And I think people pick up on that kind of thing. So I think that's what they suffer from way more than the editing. I think it's the person, I think it's your personality, in other words. It's you. It's not the editing, it's you. The editing don't help. Editing ain't doing you no favors. But it's you. So I think that overall their actions speak more for themselves. It's not, and I'll even say that with Cody and Robin, because they're very good with trying to create dialogue where they're over explaining or trying to push an idea or a belief system by talking about it, but that what they say isn't comparable or cogent with the things that they are presenting in their decision making. Like, for instance, they'll talk about, Cody, I want to be fair and I believe that all women are equal to men and blah, blah, blah. And then they totally go against that whole thing in practice, in what you do. So it's not just what you say, it's what you do. And then we have to ask the real question, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is that we have to ask the question, at what point does blaming editing or producers or fan ignorance become you avoiding accountability? Like, your family is not together for a reason. And if everything was going perfect behind the scenes and all these instances that we couldn't see, everything was lovely and wonderful, then why are y'all not together anymore? If Cody was such a great man and such a great husband, why'd y'all leave a great man and leave a great husband and a fantastic father? And that begs the question, what's wrong with you? If Cody was all these things, like these OG3 have taken turns getting, he was a great father, husband, man, he's a wonderful man, he's so kind and gentle and generous, then what's wrong with you if you left him? Because we don't see it day to day. We do, it's just the evil producers putting together some crazy storyline to make us feel a certain kind of way about it. But we'll get into that in a minute. And again, I'm going to go on record. I'm not saying that reality TV can't manipulate moments. I'm not saying that reality TV won't produce drama moments to try to keep and capture audience members. I'm not going to say that, because I do think that that's the case, especially on TLC, which is why I don't watch 90 Day Fiance anymore. Right? But at the end of the day, what they can't invent is years of bad behavior. What they can't invent or manipulate on is the experience that we have with them, not only on the show, but the carryover of us watching them in interviews where their personalities and the personality defects are amplified and they look worse. I've seen Cody on interviews, and he'll sit there and talk about, it's just the bad editing on the show, and that's why I look so terrible. He'll get on these interviews, and he does horrible interviews. Horrible interviews. And I'm not just talking about the tell nothing. I'm talking about the interviews that he does independent or sans the show or the production company. And it looks worse because he's been coddled for too long. He's been protected for too long. He doesn't know how to answer the questions. And it's something about, it's like a person who, knows somebody for years and they never learn their name. and they were able to get away with it. So instead of saying a person's name, they say, hey, what's up, buddy? Hey, Holmes, what's going on? Yo, what up, cuz? And all that stuff. But they never say the person's name. You could say it like early on. You don't remember their name. You just say, yo, man, I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. What's your name again? Reintroduce yourself. Sometimes the embarrassment will help you to remember. Right? That's why I make no bones about the fact that I'm terrible with names. Right? And so you just do it that way. But that's not what Cody and them were doing. Cody and them were doing a weirdo thing where they never ask you because they don't want to be embarrassed. They never want to say it because they don't want people to realize that they don't know it. And they go for years with the wrong name or not knowing a person's name. Cody and Robin have gone for years not sitting on the couch answering tough questions. They've gone for years getting paychecks and getting paid to go on the shows and refusing to talk about things. And now they're in a situation where if they actually get called onto a show where they actually have to talk about things, they will be destroyed. They will get crushed, or they just sound like idiots. Like when Cody did that Mormonism live, he sounded terrible. He was saying a bunch of stuff and the shit didn't make any sense. And then when it was kind of cogent, it was like, that's just wrong. I don't know what you're talking about. You live in a fantasy world. You too old for this bullshit. Like, it was crazy. So one of the things I wanted to kind of get into was the bigger cultural impact, what the show ultimately did and how it affected how we operate as a society. Because I think that ironically, the show tried to do two things. It tried to normalize polygamy, but ironically, it may have, in my opinion, it may have reinforced many of the criticisms people had on polygamy. It just gave kind of proof positive that this is actually what's going on. Because at the end of the day, viewers saw the jealousy. They got to see the favoritism. They got to see the not only financial imbalance, but financial abuse of these ladies. They got to see not only the emotional neglect, but dare I say emotional abuse of not only the mothers, but the children in this situation. So everything that I would be worried about, because I've been a part of those conversations where people joke around like, oh, you can do polygamy. Everything that I would be worried about trying to enter into a polygamous relationship, excessive jealousy, the potential for favoritism. If I favor one person over another person, and that becomes clear, the financial abuse or imbalance that could occur, the emotional neglect. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough space. I don't have enough patience. I don't have enough of me to be able to give to multiples of other people. These are all things that I would be worried about entering into a polygamous relationship, right? And that's just me trying to be responsible. But then you have people who are trying to take advantage of these systems who like the fact that their wives are jealous, who likes the fact that they could have a wife who is a favorite, the new young wife, and just every couple years you roll in a new one. They like that kind of thing, the financial imbalance where they have all these women working for them. The power of being able to emotionally neglect or decide who you're going to spend time with, and then have them not only upset that you're not spending time with them, but trying to change their behavior, trying to act in accordance in a way to make you want to spend more time with them, because that in itself becomes a power tool. And in that, I got to ask the question, did the show accidentally become a warning rather than a defense for polygamy? And here's my bigger thing. When we look at the stuff that they talked about on the show and how they were trying to be responsible, and even now they're trying to explain that, oh, well, we're just trying to I don't want to criticize polygamy because I still got friends who are still in it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's my point. If you guys wanted to really support polygamy, you should have came off the show. because the way you presented it did far more damage to polygamy. It does far more damage to polygamy. And if you have friends or family who are in it, like for instance, I know Mel and Corey from Notes to Self, 444, they get a lot of shine on the channel. I've talked to them before. They're nice folks. And if you talk to them, you or watch the show at all their content, you would see that they have a lot of things dealing with polygamy in their personal lives and growing up in that church, growing up in that environment, that even today they're deconstructing a lot of that pain, a lot of that abuse, and a lot of those experiences to this day. And it becomes a point of contention for me that if you have somebody who experiences something negative, right, and then you have someone like the Sister Wives of Brown family, you have women who've experienced these extremely negative situations in their plural marriages or in this environment, and they come out and complain about it. But then you have people like the Brown family saying, no, it wasn't like that. No, it was a great experience. No, I don't regret that at all. I am happy I went through that because I wouldn't be this wonderful person that I am today. So essentially what you're saying is that the system actually worked. Let me say that one more again. If you are saying that by being a part of polygamy and enduring a lot of that pain, a lot of that distrust, a lot of that jealousy, a lot of that favoritism, the financial abuse, the emotional neglect, the financial imbalances, etc., 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 you went through that and you are a better person because you went through it, then you are in essence saying that polygamy worked. Because isn't that one of the tenets that they say they believe, that your suffering actually makes you a better person? And it also takes away from a lot of the arguments that these women and young men who are victims of this system, it takes a lot of the steam out of their arguments. Why do you say that, James? I say that because if you have somebody who is in that situation and they're trying to wait, hold on one second. Fix this. All right, there we go. A little better. They're in that situation and they're filing complaints and they're saying I was treated horribly. And then you have somebody basically come out like, oh, I don't know why they complaining. Because I was treated well. If I'm trying to manipulate somebody into going for it, who do you think I'm trying to say is right? Who do you think I'm gonna point to? I remember speaking of special forces with Jesse Smollett. Jesse Smollett, the young man who had falsely accused some MAGA folks of jumping him and doing some terrible things to him. And he, made a whole police report about it. And, it was just a mess. It was a mess. And there was somebody who came out in support of him. And I'll never forget it. They said, big low-key support to Jesse because even though he lied about things that are really happening. And so therefore, he's bringing attention to those things. And my position is that Jesse did untold damage to anybody who has that complaint by coming out with a false report. Because when somebody comes out with a real problem, the first thing they're going to do, if they're trying to defend the perpetrators of that real problem, is they're going to come out and point to the people who lied about it. They're gonna come out and say, "Oh, well, remember that person lied and said that blah blah blah," and you know that. So we all know that that can happen. That people will come out and lie. That's a thing, and that becomes a problem. If you have Doji 3, and this is why I don't understand it, they come out and talk about what a good man Cody is, and he's a kind person, and he's so amazing. And then at some point during the show, and even post show or after the show is over, you guys are going to want to write books. And in those books, you want to talk about how terrible Cody was. That shit doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. If he's a good man, he's a good man. If he's a bad man, he's a bad man. But it does damage to not only your story, but it does damage to the people who are already in it. I'll never forget when they were down there arguing at UNLV. And a Brown family was so determined to make themselves they don't want to be a victim, sweetie. They were so determined to defend their way of life that they essentially told a young lady who Melanie, I think her name was, they told her, and she had suffered horrible. Her experience with polygamy is nightmarish. I can't even talk about it. It was so bad. I can't even talk about it on my YouTube channel because not only would my channel get kicked out of the YouTube program, but I might lose my channel. If I actually sat here and described what happened to this young lady, I very well may lose my channel. It's that bad. And when she tried to tell her story, they all sat there and disparaged her and act like she was just popping shit. Like, you can't try to put that on everybody. I'm not, and she even said, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about my experiences. But they don't know that. That's what Robin has looked her in the face and said. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so because you guys are up there, now you're saying that it was all a lie and it wasn't, none of it was true. And you present yourself as being dishonest. So that means that when things are really happening, you're not telling the truth and it's all a lie. So if you lie about this, then why would you lie about that? When you lied about saying that you had a great relationship, why wouldn't you lie about saying that you didn't have a great relationship? Especially, like I said, with the whole book thing, now you have a financial motive to lie. There's a financial incentive for you to lie in that situation. And I think that's you're doing people who are survivors of this situation a disservice by presenting yourself as one, the spokesperson for this type of lifestyle, knowing full well you're not living it, and two, you do yourself a disservice to the victims of these circumstances when you play down the suffering that these people have endured. Now I'm gonna give this as my last posit, and I just want folks to kind of think about it. Like the Browns, when they came onto the show, it was a huge thing where everybody was excited about seeing them, and they initially invited the cameras into their lives to show the world that polygamy marriages work. Not only do they work, but they're functional. They're just like everybody else's marriage. They're incredible. And they add, if anything, they add more than the traditional monogamous relationships do. Because you have more love, you have more people, you have more partners, you have more opportunities, so on and so forth. But after more than, a decade, closing in, like I said, on 15 years, 16 years of this, of footage of the cameras following them around, them doing interviews. The question isn't now whether the audience misunderstood the story and we just lost the plot. We too dumb and gaga to understand what's going on. But it's whether the Browns family misunderstood the story they were trying to tell about themselves. Like, it's not that I failed to understand what you guys were saying. I just don't think that you understood how to say what it is you're trying to say. Simple as that. So those are my thoughts on it. I'm gonna check in the comments to see what you guys are hammering on about. Okay. Let me see. Because I just think that these are some of the things that we want to explore, especially as we're talking about like what we're going to do and how we're going to move forward in the next iteration of this season. You know, where are they going to go? You know, what are they going to talk about? And I think that that's actually a struggle point because they haven't really had to talk about anything. Because the whole time they were putting out that this is a story about what polygamy is like. And isn't it so different? And they relied on that fact. Now it's just not strong enough. You know? Uh See, Karma Kitty said, I'm gonna be real for a moment. I, as a single parent, know how to survive broke and broken. The money from the show may have been great for the OG3, OG13, but no way would I allow that to go on for 20. Yeah, the sad part is that, you know, with everything, with as much money as they made, they should be doing better financially, I think. And again, I can't pocket watch them too hard, but it just seems to me like just my initial thoughts on it. Like you guys were spending money on shit you shouldn't have been spending money on, just kind of blowing it, you know, not living as though this could ever end. And now that you're rounded that corner, it's that question like, what do you do now? There was a show on called Tardy for the Party with a reality star Kim Zodiac and uh Bierman. Bierman was a football player. Kim Zodiac was a real housewife of Atlanta. She was a gold digger from when we first met her. She got hooked into a younger football player, spending up his money, got married to him, had some kids with him, just spending his money like it was never going to end. And I remember my wife used to watch the show. I didn't really get into the show. But I remember passing through and seeing episodes where his mom was trying to convince him, like he's from Montana, I think. And his mom was trying to convince him, like, look, you know, this money ain't gonna last forever. You and your wife spending this money like you're gonna be playing football into your 60s. What you should be doing is you should be trying to buy a property like a farm or something real cool here in Montana where the property values are more reasonable. You can get more and you can have really nice stuff and be able to live longer without having to, you know, do a whole lot because your money will go further. And like I said, I remember like he cut his mom off because she made that argument. He cut his mom off. You know, with the inspiration of Kim Zodiac, you need to tell your mom mind the damn business. Then when they get divorced, he turns around and oh, she was never supporting me and she was trying to get me for my money. Yeah, everybody knew that. Too bad, so sad it took you so long to figure it out, Playboy. We had a little something from Brittany Not Brittany. Where's that at? Oh, I can't get it. It's a $4.99 super chat. They're like fantasy authors who accidentally wrote a bunch of plot holes, then get mad at the fans for reading too much into it. Motherfucker, you wrote it. Like, yeah. At the end of the day, I think that's the biggest problem. Is that they write their little storylines, and then in order for the storylines to make sense, fans have to go back and try to make sense of what you said. Like my big example, or at least the most recent example I was using, was the backdoor deal stuff. And when it came out, everybody ran with a backdoor deal, backdoor deal. That backdoor deal shit is not real. You know, it's not real, because if they did, like Cody did that backdoor deal, he'd have got sued. Like the best thing he could have did to Mary was try to sell that land out from under her ass. She had destroyed him. She had destroyed him, especially sitting on top of all that property. Oh, baby, if she could get punitive damages on his ass, trouble damages, she would have ate his ass alive. You know, the whole even though, like I said, the first season, I talked about that too. Being a production storyline. Oh, they in trouble with the law, so they're gonna go to Vegas. That's not how the law works. Police want you, they come get you. You don't give a shit if you move, especially you on TV. It ain't like he just disappeared in the middle of the night and they had no idea where he went. They watch you build your house. Like, I know what the inside of your house look like. The police, they are not, they are not Roscoe Pico trained from Hazard County with Boss Hogg and Enos. Nope. They'll come get your ass. So, like I said, you are trying to, like, as a YouTuber, I feel like I want to have actual conversations. I want to have real conversations. I don't want to just reiterate or regurgitate the bullshit that they put out, because so much of it is untrue. So much of it is unfounded. So much of it just doesn't make sense. So what I try to do is I try to make sense of what we're saying. If I take you at your word and you're saying that this is what happened to you, I have to extrapolate from that and say, well, how could this thing happen? That's the position I've kind of always taken. Like, I'm not going to call you a liar outright. I'm just going to say, in order for this to be possible, this is what you would have to do. But thank you so much, Brittany Not Brittany. All right. And we had Love Soka. Remember, for 12 months. All right, Love Soka. Cody was bad at interviews from the jump. Remember his Good Morning America interview he made with the wives that aired in season 2? He was horrible. Yeah. He got stuck. He didn't know what to say. Oh, well, why are you married to all these women? Oh, because he's trying not to look like an asshole, but it's hard to do when you're an asshole. So I think that's where he ran into a problem. But thank you so much, Love So. All right. But oh. Yeah, Cody said the act is easy. Yeah, says the guy who can't act. Yeah, I mean, this is easy. Horrible actor. I'm just gonna sit there, rub my eyes, and cry because I don't want to answer no question. Yeah, even because Tracy McMurray. Let's talk about it. In his mind, he's above the law, Cody. That's the very open polygamy. He'll go on TV and admit to polygamy right and open. and he got away with it. Like he's used to not being stopped. Here's my thing. I think Cody and the rest of them made the concerted effort to present themselves as scofflaws. But if you really break it all down, they didn't do anything illegal. They talked a lot of shit about how they rebels without a cause and they doing all this wild stuff and people coming to get them. But coming to get them for what? It's not illegal for you to be married and make other people pregnant and have outside women. It only really becomes problematic when you are married to other women, additional women, and or you try to pretend as though they're reasonably they could articulate why they believe they were married to you. And none of the wives in this situation could do that because they all knew about each other. They all knew about the other wives. You know, and that's just crazy to me. Just crazy to me. So it's like they knew they had certain levels of protections coming onto the show. So it comes off looking way worse than it actually is legally, in my opinion. You know, because if the court really drilled down on them, I think all the bullshit about we all one family and the spiritual marriages, it just would have been like, look, this is my wife. I have a license to marry this person, whether it's Robin or Mary, and I'm not married to these other women. It's not illegal for me to go over to people's houses and bang them out and impregnate them. That's not illegal. So if you want to make it illegal, you guys will have to write new laws. But crazy. We had Caramel Cuties with a $10 super chat. Said, no way as a mother would I allow my children to endure all that the Brown children endured by Cody and Robin, all for a paycheck and fame. Straight BS. The OG3 should have left years before they actually did. Yeah. I mean, it's like the psychological damage is untold. Like you might have nice things out front, but if your kid doesn't know right from wrong, up from down, and it's wearing on them and their personalities, it's wearing on their securities, their self-esteem, things of that nature, feeling like they have to compete for a parent's love and be rejected, especially in a very public environment where kids can be cruel. So they watching your dad creep off with another woman. You think them kids ain't hear about that shit? You know? Think them kids ain't hear about that in the parking lot? Or the parking lot, the playground? So I think that's the part that we kind of overlook. Because they'll put it on, and in a way, let's take a pause and redirect there. How selfish is that? Because when they talk about it, they talk about like YouTubers and things of that nature. I haven't really seen a whole lot of instances where, not even so much channels, even members or people on Reddit or Facebook. I have very, 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 very rarely seen somebody say anything about the Brown kids, and try to hurt their feelings with stuff. So, with that being said, isn't it possible that the only time they were hearing negative things about the kids from the kids was when the kids went to school and they were talking amongst their peers and they were getting ideas about what was going on in the Brown family or the Brown kids' houses because of what they saw on TV? So we blaming kids now. And even to Caramel Cutie's point, like you're subjecting your kid to that. If I get on Twitter and I say something wild and ruckus, you know, about the brown kids, rightly so, I get checked. But if you're in the schoolyard and you say something about somebody mama or their family structure, you know, there's only a couple ways that shit can go. A couple ways that can go. So I don't know. It's just that's one of the things that you have to consider as you talk about getting ready to put them on television. But thank you so much, Carl McHughes. I appreciate you. All right, read through. Was this what did you say? James, you should watch 1,000 Pound Sisters. Their mom allowed all 5 of her kids to balloon up till they all needed gastric bypass. Never visited them in the hospital or attended their weddings or anything. Yeah, yeah. And I think that that's one of the sadder things, especially as you watch some of the reality shows. A lot of these people, because I am familiar with 1,000 Pound Sisters. I paid my bills. My bills are paid. I get made fun of because I got roaches. Roach on the back wall. That's 1,000 Pound Sisters. Tammy was a pistol back when she was like really, 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 really heavy. She was a pistol, boy. She make people drive her places. She couldn't fit on the because her sister Amy had a minivan and she couldn't even fit on the bench seat in the back. So they used to have to take seats out so she could sit on the floor. But if you sit on the floor, you don't have no seatbelt. So, but she was just a pistol. But to that effect, I think that you know the mom in that instance clearly did the wrong thing. Clearly did the wrong thing because she was abusing them with food. But at the same time, you know, she's a bigger human being as well. And you don't want to discourage your kids from eating. So if they say they're hungry, you'll feed them all day. You know what I mean? At least that's how I was raised. You don't cut kids off like, oh, I'm hungry. No, you've had enough. Like that's crazy. But I think that played a part in it. Um, the kids having to deal with being out of shape. And then, again, kids are cruel. So no matter how much they work and try to improve, there's a real possibility that they would get blasted out anyway. But yeah. I mean, it is crazy. It's crazy. And like I said, Tammy, I think she was the heaviest out of all the kids. And Tammy's only like 5 foot nothing. Like she must be about 5'1". And it becomes more apparent after she lost all that weight. But she was a tank. And she's a big woman. And you can see there's a lot going on. And that's one of the things that I wish, whether it's Biggest Loser or shows like, Dr. Now or 1,000 Pound Sisters. I think it would be interesting to hear somebody actually talk about it, being overweight, because even speaking about people being judged poorly based on the thing they're participating in. When you're overweight or you talk to somebody who's overweight, they're judged poorly all the time. Assumptions are always made about them. Why don't you lose weight? Why don't you stop eating? Why don't you change your diet? Why don't you stop being lazy? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So and watching, let's say watching 1,000 Pound Sisters, like I'm gonna be blunt. I'm surprised Tammy is still alive because your body can only handle so much of that weight. And so she cut different. Tammy is strong. But yeah, it makes you wonder like how much pressure was a mom putting on them, like, guys, you need to straighten your life up. And she said she never really did that. So they was digging their graves one spoon at a time. It's crazy. We had Caramel Cuties, the $5 super treat. Sig Isabel breakdown, asking for her dad broke my heart. I would have come back from her surgery and chose straight violence if it were me. I'm just saying, yeah. It's just so weird. Like the dismissive nature of how he approached it was crazy to me. That was crazy work. Like, I can't even believe y'all made me come up here to see her today. I could be home chilling. You know, I mean, that's how he kind of treated the whole thing. Good luck during a snowstorm or the rainstorm. Don't come outside, even if the damn place start coming apart. So, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of times when the kids were like, got me. And their reaction to things. Let me give Carmen Hughes a little something. And 7266. When they go to therapy, most have been abused and caused their overall over bad eating. Dr. Now, they would do where they are now. Yeah. Well, because even Dr. Now, when he sends a lot of people out, you find out that part of the reason why they put on so much weight is almost a self-defense tactic that they're trying to utilize so that way they can get away from the person that they're basically mistreating. And I think that that's one of the big factors for me is that, you know, you see people using weight as a shield, and that's something that doesn't really get talked about or explored. And instead, it's easier to just look at them and say that's their fault. They should go to the gym more, or they should put the spoon down because it's easy to be in shape. And here's the thing: if it was easy to be in shape, everybody would be in shape. You know, so. Is this James, we want to get into straight reality, cover the LOL cows on the internet, Chantel, or Foodie Beauty would be an interesting cover. Oh, okay. I don't even know who these people are. Hey, Caddy. Yeah. Yeah, there's also like on Dr. Now, they've had a few people who fetishize overweight people. Like it's almost weird. It's like they're trying to do harm to them because they'll get them whatever they want, and the doctor will be like, "Look, if you eat one more damn piece of pizza, your whole heart gonna blow up." And this dude will come back, leave that doctor's appointment, and show up to the house with 4 big ass boxes of Dominoes. You know. And then go in the room and go to sleep. Like, what the shit? You know, it's easy to break up with people just in going out buying a bunch of expensive ass pizzas. That man must have had about $100 worth of pizzas now. The guy, yeah, he ordered a bunch of food. And I've seen people get broke up with on Dr. Now because they wanted to lose the weight. The significant other say they can't take it. They guess they get a crush. Them crush fantasies. They want to get crushed when they do their thing. But let me give Mama Celeste a little something. Thank you, Mama Celeste. Yeah, but hold on 1 second. Mhm. Yeah, but that's what I have to say. Let me know what you guys think. I'm not going to drag it out too long. I just wanted to come on and touch base with you guys because I have been absent, persona non grata for the last couple weeks. Still trying to put it together health wise, but we're gonna get there. I wanted to give a shout out. Let's do the practice that we have on the show that I really like, where we try to support each other best way we can because people are going through some things, and sometimes their struggle isn't as obvious as other people's. Like they go through things, and sometimes people know, sometimes people don't. But it's always the nice to let people know that you got their back and that you're supporting them, even if you don't know the ins and outs of everything that's been happening to them. Just as it just helps. So, without further ado, let's get some hearts in the chat. For anybody who needs the hearts in the chat, this time is for you. You don't have to call in, write in, and tell me what your names is, or what your name is, or your problems or issues. Just know that when we put these hearts in the chat, they for you. So let's put some hearts in the chat for those individuals. We have Jody Periscala, Carmel Cuties, Megatron, Miss Betty, Kathy Ferran, Allison Gaines, Marlo Peterson, and Ann Teen. So let's get some hearts in the chat for those individuals. Appreciate you guys. I also wanted to recognize folks who contributed with super chats to the show. We have Carmel Cuties, we have Brittany Not Brittany, and Love Soka. Thank you guys so much. And before we go, I also want to make sure I thank the moderators for holding us down. So key, so crucial, so critical to the health and well-being of the channel. I appreciate you guys. We have Carmel Cuties, Brittany Not Brittany, and I think she had to bounce a little early. Lizzie B. So I appreciate you guys. Let me give everybody who was participating in the chat, keeping it super cool, super fun, keeping it super lean, so we all get to participate. Let me give them a little something. I'm in a weird place. I gotta go to the gym tomorrow. But hold on 1 second. It is for you guys. Sorry, I'm stalling out. Yeah, but thank you guys so much. I will be back on Tuesday for the call-in show, and I have to try to get myself together to try to get some of this new content out. Hopefully, you guys have your subscription locked in, ringing the bell for notifications. When I drop the new videos, I'm gonna need you guys' help to help hype the videos out and push them out to other people. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, like button, ringing the bell for notifications, as well as the heart button. Let me know you love it. Maybe leave a comment and hype the videos so we get some more traction to the channel. More invitations sent out. Yeah, woo. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I am going in and passing out now. Hopefully some of my commentary was a little insightful and it made sense. Not quite sure what I'm doing or saying right now, but hopefully it made sense. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. Have a fantastic evening. I don't know if I did Carmel Cuties, Brittany Not Brittany, and Lizzie B for holding me down. I think I did, but thank you guys so much. So nice. I want to make sure I get my personal wave in for them. Thank you guys. You're awesome. But make sure you guys take care of yourselves. Make sure you check on those strong people in your lives. Make sure that they okay. That they doing well too. Because strong people, especially, they're very hesitant. The thing with strong people that you may have in your life, the people who support you, the kickstands, the thing with them, they're not, especially because they're not used to complaining or talking about their issues with you, they'll never bring their problems up to you first. So if you see that they're going through things, they slowing down, just take 5 minutes and ask them if they okay. It could make all the difference in the world. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. Have a fantastic evening and rest of your week. Hopefully I'll see you on Tuesday. If not Tuesday, Thursday for the Speak Pipe Show. All right. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening. That's my take. I'm James, and this has been my take on reality, and I'm out.